Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2020. Welcome to Business Morning. I am Bosin Omofaye. Let's get the show started. Access Bank's recent acquisition of Kenya's Transnational Bank 100% equity in line with Access strategy to grow outside Nigeria. But there will be no material credit implications in the near term due to Transnational's small size. That's according to Moody's Investor Services, releasing a new report on Nigeria's Access Bank on Tuesday. According to the report, Moody's Investor Services issued an update, says it's affirmed the B2 ratings on Access Bank, but changed the bank's outlook from stable to negative. According to Moody's Services, this is the latest Access Bank rating, as you see there on your TV screen. The rating agency, Moody's, affirmed Access Bank's long-term CRR at B2, the bank's long-term debt also at B2, and Access Bank's long-term deposit at B3 and B2. However, the bank's outlook was changed from being stable to negative. According to Moody's, the Access Bank's rating also reflects Nigeria's challenging operating environment. In other words, Moody's says that Access Bank has large exposure to the sovereign debt securities, that is, buying government bonds and treasury bills, as well as loans. 338% of Access Bank's tangible common equity as at the end of June. In other words, government securities and loans account for 338% of Access Bank's tangible assets as at the end of June last year, linking its credit profile to that of Nigeria. According to Moody's Investor Services, upwards rating momentum of Access rating is limited given the negative outlook, but that could change to stable if sovereign rating outlook stabilized, that is, Nigeria's sovereign rating outlook is stabilized, and Access Bank maintains resilient financial performance, end of quote. Meantime, some sales and purchases of Access Banks by some top officials have been recorded over the last few days. The Group Managing Director, Herbert Wigwe, according to information published by the Nigerian Stock Exchange, on Tuesday sold 15.530 million shares via his indirect holdings in the bank. Another director, Emmanuel Norum, purchased about 636,000 shares, which were disclosed by the Nigerian Stock Exchange as part of market disclosure. Onto the bigger macroeconomic space, Nigeria made big gains at the one-day UK-Africa Investment Summit of Monday this week, recording estimated £6.5 billion in business deals, which were signed by popular British firms like GlaxoSmithKline in the pharmaceutical industry and Diageo in the global beverage business, adding to £1.5 billion British pounds of aid-funded initiatives which Nigeria posted at the big event. Of course, President Buhari made a very big speech on the state of the Commonwealth and why Nigeria is important and why Commonwealth has to be rejigged in order to reflect what is called the fair trade. Paul Alaje is a senior economist and is joining me live here in the studio this morning. He is from SP Professionals. Paul, good morning. Welcome.
Morning,
Thank you so much. Let's just get this up and running. Where do we start? Give us your insights from everything you've seen in the news from the UK-Africa Investment Summit.
First, it's good news for Nigeria because a number of deals were signed to favor Nigeria. And I think among African countries, Nigeria perhaps is number one in terms of what Nigeria was able to record. And I also saw a major change in president style. Unlike similar summits or conferences that the president have attended, I've talked about how corrupt Nigeria is or how lazy Nigerian youth are. In his presentation this time, the president told UK, and in fact everyone present, that Nigerians are educated in English. There are a lot of young Nigerians that are educated in English. And these people are able to work, but because of current economic situation in Nigeria, they are highly underemployed. So coming to invest in Nigeria, you would have legion of educated people that can help you push your business, indirectly so. So I think this kind of presentation that the president had perhaps we better sell Nigeria to international community rather than saying that Nigeria is so corrupt. Because if people want to know how corrupt Nigeria is, there are organizations whose responsibility is to know how corrupt nations are. Whether country is lazy or not, there are so many indicators that you can use to determine. But as the leader of the country, I also think that this will further push Nigeria on ease of doing business. Because when you see one of the areas where Nigeria have rated low is the area of government honoring contract. So if the head of state and the commander-in-chief is saying, come invest in my country, and I will give you the needful environment for your business to thrive, you will not be surprised. Or your state is one of the states that have gains. You have airports and that also have gained quite a number of things coming the way of Nigeria. I was so happy to see the result of that meeting.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting that, from all indications, it looks like President Buhari's diplomacy is changing as a person, as an individual.
Yes.
As Mr. President.
Yes.
His body language, his talk, and all of that seems to have changed since his inauguration. He's made a number of international travels. He's been to Russia, he's went to China, he went to Beijing, he's been to Saudi Arabia, he went to Egypt, and it looks like even his script writers seem to have changed the manner in which his speeches at international events, such as the one on Monday, was in terms of what he delivers and how important it is that Mr. President should speak to the big picture, which is Nigeria, and the bigger picture, which is Africa. Are you seeing that from this speech, of course, which he delivered on Monday, and which was well publicized, not just in Nigeria, but even among the British and other foreign media?
I see that. I see that a lot have changed from his presentation, and the handler of Mr. President even do the better job in the recently just concluded investment summit. I hope that what we saw Monday will be what will be repeated in the coming conferences and meeting and summit going forward. And I was particularly happy at the gains Nigeria made and the kind of emphasis Mr. President laid on different countries that form the Commonwealth, because it was not particular. He's still pushing, in a way technically pushed as that big brother in Africa. I'm not saying that all is well with Nigeria, that we have everything that we need, but you see, countries must be marketed to the rest of the world. So the way he presented it, I've listened to different other speakers and all of that, but he was very deliberate about what he said about Nigeria. And the person that did that script writing, I think, has done a very good job and should be celebrated for the good job he did for Mr. President.
Yes, part of it is being, Mr. President's speech is being dissected by a foreign media, and I'm trying to take this from the Africa Report magazine, which is based in France, in Paris, by the way, and try to look at President Buhari's speech when it comes to the Commonwealth. And like you said, he spoke about the youth, highly skilled, English-speaking, unemployed youth who are eager to work, but they need opportunities. He also spoke about greater UK engagement within the Nigerian economy, which, according to the speech, would bring jobs to untapped sectors such as agriculture and manufacturing. So this looks like Mr. President is looking at these. Then he also spoke about natural resources such as energy, mineral resources, on ending of customs barriers and all of that. So it looks like President Buhari is now thinking beyond just social investment programs. But looking at what they call the bigger picture of brick and mortar that the country needs.
You know, President Buhari have used 4 years to test the method he used in the first term. And whether that yielded the result or not is for National Bureau of Statistics has shown us we have more unemployment, we have more inflation, we have more hunger. Now, the method is changing. I can tell you we are going to have less unemployment, we are going to have less inflation, and we are going to have more foreign direct investment with this new pattern that we are seeing. Because when he mentioned, you know, before now, President will only talk about corruption and investment in agriculture, specifically.
Getting stolen funds back.
Yes, stolen funds back.
But that seems to take very little part of what he said.
But when you even look at all that we have recovered from stolen funds and our business, they don't form up to 10%. They don't form up to 5%. Of all the energy, all the things we put in place, they don't form significant part.
Is this a change in diplomatic focus?
I think so. And if it is not, I think it should be. It should be. Because people will be more comfortable to invest in your country. There are some conversations that are made for a nation, domestic conversations. We don't need to take them outside to international community to see. We have different agencies. We have anti-graft agencies. EFCC is doing a great job. ICPC. We have those agencies of government. We have the Nigerian police.
So let them do their job.
Let them do their job,
We need,
including Nigerian
because
police.
if you look at foreign direct investment, for example, we're doing just less than $1 billion.
Yeah.
As at some point in 2019. Now we got $6.5 billion in investment deals, and names were mentioned like GlaxoSmithKline, for example. We need healthcare products at affordable level. We need the beverage industry, like Diageo, which is the parent company for Guinness Nigeria PLC, of course, which is a listed company on the exchange. So you think conversations of this nature is what we should be looking forward to?
It's what we should be looking forward to. And not just to look forward to them, also to see them through. I hope Mr. President will set up maybe a committee or task respective government agency to follow up on this, because business people have made commitments. Will they not have bottlenecks when it comes to implementation? If they make this presidential priority, what I mean by that is, if we make this a top priority and all that the president is personally interested in, you are going to see that injection in our economy. You know the good news? It is not debt injection. We're not borrowing now.
No.
What matters is that this is investment.
Yeah, this
so
is $6.5 billion is direct investment.
It's direct investment.
So it's not loan, it's not whatever, it's just coming in here doing brick and mortar.
The good news about that, again, is not a portfolio investment. It is real sector investment.
Not buying stocks.
Not buying stocks.
Treasury bills,
bonds. They're not buying all of those. It is direct investment, investing on airport, investing on street light, investing on pharmaceutical. These are critical sectors that will guarantee jobs, that will generate jobs, that will not necessarily have implication on inflation, that will reduce unemployment. These are what we need. So
the 100 million jobs that Mr. President had a focus on says we could do that, breaking it down to 10 million over a 10-year period. This looks like a cutting razor for that.
Exactly. So what perhaps those in economic group or working with Mr. President should consider is, where do we get cluster of people like this again? The UK Africa Summit, Investment Summit has come and is gone now. Where do we get more of similar investment opportunity?
In Europe?
In Europe.
In China?
One thing Mr. President has done for himself, or what he has done in first term, that I am happy with, is he has tried to preach integrity for himself. So it will come with a lot of trust. But you see, trust in business is different from trust in churches and mosques. If you want to do business, people will take your truth with some level of consideration. So now it must go beyond that man preaching, conversing, fighting against corruption to, when it comes to economy, Nigeria can also get it right. And how we can get it right is what UAE, the example with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, now we charge by saying, come invest in our economy. So many other countries in the world have done it. China is currently doing that. You see a lot of foreign direct investment. They use policy to make it very difficult for you to leave, to take away your investment from the country. So if Nigeria start on this note of come invest in our country, it may want to look at what are the major bottlenecks to growth in Nigeria. One of them is power. The next one is infrastructure. After that, education, health. So we're making our presentation. We can make policies that when investors are coming, we are targeting these critical sector. So when they come, we already know where we want them to be. So what are those things that we can give to them within our environment that make business relatively easier for them? And that, I think, should be the consideration of Mr. President.
What happened at the UK Investment Summit on Monday this week, do you think is a testimony that perhaps the Buhari's new administration folks are getting it a little bit right?
I think so.
From the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council to NEPC, to the Customs, Support Authority, and others, enabling business environment, under the Office of the Vice President, PEBEC, and all that. Do you think this is all a bit of coalescing together and giving some level of confidence moving forward?
I'm not sure, but I think so. I think so because of, one, results don't lie. What you have seen after the presentation, it's so good for business environment, anyone that loves Nigeria. People that have followed my presentation at different platforms, we know I don't necessarily sing praise of government or saying this government is good or bad. It's not my. We look at the issues. We don't discuss the people. So I believe that the team is working, and the kind of results we have seen with the UK African Investment Summit is something that we should encourage. And whosoever, maybe 1%, 10%, 20%, one ministry, all the ministries together that have put this together, we need more of this. This is what can reduce crime. This is what we would do, that crime will reduce, unemployment will reduce. And so many issues, social programs that were, all of those are fine, but more of investment in our economy is what can guarantee the future and guarantee development for this country.
Great. But then if you look at this latest, and you were sitting in here when we teed off the program with this Access Bank, Moody's Investor Services rating, yes, keeping the bank's rating, but the outlook moved from stable to negative. Nigeria got similar negative outlook late last year by these rating agencies. And this is coming from the sovereign side to bite Access Bank. That's what this is up, because the agency says, look, the taking of Access Bank from stable in terms of outlook to negative reflects the sovereign government issuer rating. So do you think how much work do you think the government of Nigeria needs to do to move Nigeria's economic outlook from back to stable, from negative, and even from stable to positive? Because it's actually positive, stable, and negative. We're now at the lower end of that outlook level.
One thing different rating agencies look at, not just one thing. One of the important things they consider is policy environment. Recall that IMF just said that the growth estimate for Nigeria will be about 2.5%. Now, Rwanda is projecting 8%. So now policy consistency and certainty within the economy, we are still not so very
the World
sure.
Bank talked about policy uncertainties as a key challenge for Nigeria. Because on the basis on which our GDP forecast for 2020, 2021, 2022 was kept at 2.5% unchanged.
Unchanged. So we are not.
That's taking this administration close to its exit point.
Exactly.
Of 2023.
Now so we now need to task authorities, particularly those working with President Buhari on economy, that you now see it's an audit of performance. We are saying that ensure there is certainty. When people are coming, what exactly do we want to do? What are we driving at? If you go to countries with relatively improved economy, you are sure of what the policy of government is saying, what government wants to achieve in the next 3 years. If I ask people that are viewing us across the globe, or Nigerians perhaps, that what do we want to achieve in the next 3 years in terms of our economy? Yeah, we have a lot of fantastic processes, programs, but to achieve what? President has given a vision, so to speak, 100 million reduction in poverty in the next 10 years. So he has 4 years. We can say what he wants to achieve is 40 million poverty reduction before he leaves office. How many have been reduced from June 12 till date? Now, if we have not achieved much, what do we need to do in terms of poverty reduction? What policy environment do we need to change? Now, we see economic recovery and growth plan, we should be doing between 4 or maybe 7% right now. But the program itself has not been able to do half of what he projected. Why? Because that document has no figure to it.
EIGP is history. So, Mr. President has said so and said we need to onboard from there to a new 2040 a program, which is a 2-decade of a program. So your final word on when Mr. President is back and the rest of the team are back at home, where should we go next from here?
Where we should go next, like I mentioned earlier, is to follow up on some of these gains that we have. We are back from, of course, Nigeria back. These are promises. And promissory note may not transfer to cash until you follow up or you represent or you make demand on it. And most of this investment will also affect state government across political parties. How do we work together and put aside our political party religious differences?
So if some of these businesses are going to certain regions of the country or states, how do we ensure that we don't bring in politics and politics into it and discourage these British investors?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, what matters is whether you live in Sokoto or you live in Calabar, employment will reflect, and it will show that we have reduced unemployment from 1 to 1 million to 10 million, and perhaps in 10 years to 100 million.
I agree with you. Poverty has no color. It has no. It doesn't discriminate.
No, it doesn't worship God, because I'm not sure God loves poverty.
Poverty have nothing to do with politics, really. It's just you're hungry, you're hungry. It does not matter on which political divide you are. Thank you so much. I'm sure there will be days and weeks ahead to still digest what President Buhari's speech was at the UK Africa Investment Summit, and a big one there, a very major speech. Looking at President Buhari's economic diplomacy in his second term. Paul Alaje, thank you so much.
Thank you
Senior
so much.
economist at SPM Professionals. When we come back, we're talking about the premium stock market, premium stocks on the market, and investing by pensions in the new market dynamics. That's the conversation in part 2.